والتعاون الدولي. احنا الحقيقه سعداء جدا بتعاون دكتور محسن معانا، والتعاون ان شاء الله يبقى مثمر ويبقى دائم دائم. لو في اي استفسارات خاصه باي بعثات، باي سكولرشيبس، باي منح، باي مؤتمرات، احنا جاهزين في اي تايم تقدروا تتفضلوا علينا. تمام؟ احنا الايميلز بتاعتكم هنبدا نعمل كونتاكت معاكم. اي فرصه تجيلنا هنبعتها، عشان كده احنا حابين جدا الايميلز تبقى اكيوريت جدا، لان احنا اوريدي بنبعت وفي ناس ما بتوصلهاش بسبب ان هم كاتبين حرف غلط. والحقيقه انا سعيده جدا. دكتور محسن هيحب يقدم كلمه، وشكرا لحضرتك.
شكرا لك. Tonight we listen to Professor Dr. Nظlى فرسبورج, the Professor of International Education in Stockholm University. Thanks to accept our invitation. Sweden in our memory means the first famous writer August Strindberg, author of the Father Day, Miss Julia Play, the North Play, and the Road to Damascus also. Second, Sweden, the last Secretary of the United Nations, Mr. Bernhard Shaw. Third, Sweden means in our memory, Mr. Olof Palme, the friend of Palestine's rights and supporter of Palestine's rights and speaker. Thank you. We happy to you come to our seminar and we listen to my friend Kamal. About another side of Professor Nظlى فرسبورج.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الأول يعني أنا بشكر أساتذتي وأخواتي الكبار والإخوة الزملاء، وبوجه تحية خاصة من قسم التربية وقسم التربية المقارنة ومركز التعاون الدولي داخل الكلية. والحقيقة يعني لم أكن لأجلس في هذا المكان إلا يعني يجب أن أقدم احترامي وتقديري، وبعتذر عن إذا كان هذا تجاوزا في حقكم يعني. إنما دعوتنا دائما أن الأدوار المتبادلة حسب ما يختار الموضوع. الحقيقة أنا عايز أدي بريف عن الشخصية التي سنتحدث اليوم، وهو الجوانب الشخصية عن دكتورة نظلى فرسبورج. الحقيقة هي عايزة إن الكلام اللي أقوله يكون محدد وتفهمه هنا باللغة الإنجليزية أو بالأسبانية. فالحقيقة أنا هدي بريف في الأول باللغة العربية، وبعدين هترجم لها هذا الكلام من بريف برضه بالإنجليزي. الحقيقة نحن أمام شخصية متميزة. هذه الجوانب الشاملة من الناحية الإنسانية أنا أعرف دكتورة نظلى من أكثر من 10 سنوات، لما كنت أحد المديرين المسؤولين في شركة المقاولين العرب عن مشروعات داخل غرب ووسط أفريقيا في غينيا الاستوائية وغينا ونيجيريا وهذه الدول، والتقيت بها لأول مرة في تعاون مشترك تقدمه شركة المقاولين العرب كجانب دعم اجتماعي للمجتمعات الموجودة هناك. الحقيقة أنا تعرفت على كثير من الأساتذة اللي كانوا موجودين هناك، ولم أرتبط بعلاقة مستديمة غير مع دكتورة نظلى، لأنها تعبر عن نواحي نحن نحتاج إليها كثيرا. أول هذه النواحي إنه أنا سألتها سؤال في البداية: أنت تعملي في اليونيسيف وقدامك فرص كثيرة جدا أن تعملي في دول متقدمة، فقالت بالاختصار: أنا لي رسالة: من لم يقدم مجهود لمن يحتاج وخاصة للفقراء فلن وليس له أي رسالة في الحياة. هذا الجانب الأول. الجانب الثاني، في كل دولة عملت فيها في دول أفريقيا أو في أمريكا اللاتينية كان لها وجهة نظر أنه عندما نتعامل مع منظمات دولية زي اليونيسيف زي اليونسكو يجب أن نكون حذرين تماما، لأن لهم أجندات يفرضونها على المجتمعات. إذا ما أردت أن تتعامل يجب أن يكون لك خصوصية، لأن كل مجتمع له خصوصية ويجب أن نحافظ عليها. فيجب أن إذا أرادوا أن يقدموا لك دعما فليكونوا بعيدين عن خصوصيتهم. كثيرا من هذه المجالات اللي احنا يعني تعاملنا وتعاوننا فيها، فسوري يعني أنا هدي بريف سريع ليها. We have a proposal for education in Egypt, and I'll make the brief about the personality of Dr. Nظلى. I know Dr. Nظlى from more than 2 years ago when I worked one of the managers of Arab contractor who makes the site cooperation and the commitment for these countries. I believe that is in the humanity case with Dr. Nظlى, because from the first time I contacted her, I had this relation with her, I asked her, why you are working normally in the very poor countries in Africa? She told me that everyone has a message. This message is that you should work for the needy people, for the poor people. If you didn't advance yourself to make something for the other, you will never get anything. Also, I ask here what you can do, because you are working in a mission. She told me, normally I'm responsible to make the planning for strategies in these countries, and every time I speak for all the governments. No one can make programming or development for your country unless the people for the same country to save the culture for all. And every time she speaks my Spanish language to me, por favor, perdóname, I'm sorry, يعني هقول اللي كانت بتقول بالاسباني، دايما كانت بتقول لي por favor llamar. Mi mensaje es muy importante para saberlo. La persona, la vida, no necesita la persona para aprovechar las cosas de la vida, pero necesita la persona para querer la vida o esperanza por los otros. فبمتها انه الحياه لا تحتاج الى ناس يذهبون الى ان يستفيدوا من الحياه، انما الحياه تبدا عندما يكون هناك ناس يصدرون الامل ويخلقون حياه جديده. Another very important thing that one implementation case is better more than millions of the words and hundreds of the books. If you make the implementation case for your kids or for your students, it is better more than when you speak more. It means that you have a lot of professors. These professors make 100 books, but actually they speak about freedom, but actually it's dictators. So no one can evaluate the persons according to the speech or the books, but you should have something inside. So it means that the evaluation for the person is depend or according to the evaluation what is the application for it. باختصار شديد هي بتقول انه مئات الناس بيكتبوا من الكتب، ولكن المهم ان يكون لديك قيمه في داخلك هي التي تستطيع ان تصدر من خلالها قيمه للاخرين. وانه في كثير من الناس يتحدثون ويكتبون كل كتاباتهم عن الديمقراطيه وفي الحقيقه هم ديكتاتوريين. Sorry because I take a lot of time, and welcome Nظlى, my best friend, and we have to with us and make a lot of cooperation in the future, inshallah.
I prefer to stand up if it's okay. It's better. Yes. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you to this lecture on these 2 decades of education for all. And it is a really great honor to be invited by the Asian University Faculty of Education, thanks to Dr. Mose, Dean of the Foundation and Education Department, and of course, Dr. Rashta, and in collaboration with my dearest and best friend, Gamal. I appreciate the word of introduction to the lecture and to my person. I was also very happy to have my sister Elizabeth with me, my dearest and lovely sister. With her we have worked a lot to make this world better for all children around the world. I prepared this presentation based on the consulted sources and bibliography, primarily from UNESCO. So we will have a comparative analysis and some statistics. But I think that the most important thing is, from my experience in the field, I can tell you how this implementation has been, what seems to be the progress, what are the progress, and where are the challenges, what we need to do more to ensure the right to quality education. I will present, this presentation will be in 3 parts. I will introduce some of the issues on education for all, which I believe some of you, or most of you, are aware of this education for all. And then I will say, do some reflection on the implementation of this gigantic compromise, and then move on to look upon the achievement, what progress has been done, then the challenges, things that needs to be done, and a final reflection on the issue. So, as I said before, I will provide a brief overview of education for all and to examine the contributions and remaining challenges. What is education for all? I realize that you all know about it, but it's always good to review what this commitment is all about, which is an international commitment to provide quality basic education for all children, youth, and adults. This commitment was translated into an agreement of 6 goals that should be met by 2015, which means this year. All countries has to make a report and present it before August this year. And this was signed by 155 countries in 1990 during the World Education Conference in Chongqing, Thailand. Most importantly, I believe, is why. Why do we need an education for all? And some of these figures can tell you why. Why do we have that many children out of school? Why do we have that many children without the basic knowledge, numeracy, literacy? Mostly women. Why do we have failing in primary school? So there were many questions in 1990. And one of the reasons, or one of the factors that contribute to this situation is what they call the structural adjustment reforms in many countries around the world, which means that it was a movement to reduce the support of the government to social services. And it was a move to the privatization of the services. And that, as a result, leads to families and communities to stop the children to go to school because they did not have the resources. So this is the reason, some of the factors to why do we need this. We cannot continue with this situation. So in facing this, the effort to find 6 goals, and I will go one by remind us what the content is all about. So, number one, it was expanded and improving comprehensive early childhood care and education, especially for the most vulnerable and disadvantaged children. Goal number two, ensuring that by 2015, all children, particularly girls, children in difficult circumstances, and those belonging to ethnic minorities have access to and complete free and compulsory primary education of good quality. Three, ensuring that the learning needs of all young people and adults are met through equitable access to appropriate learning and life skills programs. Goal number four, achieving a 50% improvement in level of adult literacy by 2015, especially for women, and equitable access to basic and continuing education for all adults. Goal number six, improving all aspects of the quality of education and ensuring excellence of all so that recognized and measurable learning outcomes are achieved by all, especially in literacy, numeracy, and essential life skills. One thing that we have to remember and we have to be alert is that when this declaration was signed, by these countries, the situation of every single country was different. The starting point is different. It's not the same Sweden in comparison to Egypt, Egypt in comparison to Mozambique, or in comparison to Nicaragua, in comparison to Cuba. The starting point are different. So we cannot use the solution to be applicable by all countries in the same way. No, this is not because the context is different. And even I can think about, I was talking to my friend, thinking that even in Africa, some of the countries they were decolonized, I think in 1970s. I don't remember right now which one was the last country to be decolonized in Africa. So the proximity, to EFA is very close. In comparison with Latin America gained their independence by the end of the 19th century. Already by the end of the 19th century, we have state institutions taking care of education. So the gap is big to be able to say, okay, we will do EFA the same for all countries. No, it's not possible. This is not. What we need to compromise is to do our best, using our knowledge and our resources to be able to deliver these goals. I want to refer to the Millennium Development Goals because some of the issues dealing with EFA was focused primarily on education. So the Millennium Development Goals who were done 10 years after, in 2000, they took some of the goals from EFA and add two more, in relation to environmental issues, in relation to the goal of the partnership. These are the goals of the Millennium Development, which I also wanted to bring today, but the point for the presentation is about education for all, it's not the millennium, but it's also part of that. There are 8. Eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, achieve universal primary education, which has to do with EFA directly, promote gender equality, which also has to do with EFA, reduce child mortality, improve maternal health, combat HIV, malaria, and other diseases, ensure environmental sustainability, and global partnership for development. What seems to be the requirement for this gigantic, commitment, to have, about 200 countries trying to achieve these goals, is the conditions is to have a supportive policy context. We need to have the states to be at front, to be the leaders of these changes. We need to mobilize public and private finance and resources, and we need to work together to resolve conflicts. To me, I think that what we need to guarantee is peace. We need to have peace, first and foremost. If we have peace, we have growth, we have prosperity, we have education, we have health. At first, we have to have the condition to be able to do that. To make possible this effort implementation, there were several strategies that developed to be able to implement it. The first one is about partnership, promoting partnership. And I'm using the example with Equatorial Guinea, with Arab constructions, where we have this agreement between UNICEF, the government of Guinea Equatorial, and Arab construction to support pre-primary and primary education. The interpretation of partnership means, I believe, 5 things. Means dialogue, foremost dialogue, and vertical dialogue. Okay, we need to be at the same level, not from the top to down or from the down to top. It has to be like this. Then we need to have the conditions, in addition to the dialogue, to have the conditions to be working about the priorities of the government. We need to work on that. We need to mobilize resources. We need to see each part will do something to make possible the goals. Arab construction will do this. The government of Guinea Equatorial will do this, and UNICEF will do this. So the roles were defined. And in fact, one of the success of this partnership is to put Equatorial Guinea to fulfill the goal number 1, which is pre-primary and primary. It's going to be ahead given to this partnership. Here, foremost, as I say, this dialogue is consensus, is cooperation, and is alignment. But foremost, we need to have a strong state, when we organize this effort. Furthermore, we need the leaders that will tell us how to work. It's not that, UNICEF or some will tell and come out and say it. No, we will do this. No, we will sit. We will know what the priorities are for the country, and then we will decide how together we will do this. It should be something not put it from the top to down, which is normal. But this is not the way to go, because it doesn't work in that way. It's always to work on a more horizontal way. It's better to have this dialogue on a more horizontal way. These are some of the pictures with Mr. Gamal and the Minister of Education with, I don't know, it doesn't look very well in the picture, and then Mr. Gamal with the students. So it's the interesting story is that when we develop ideas, it's just that because of the friendship and his position in Arab construction, and myself, working for UNICEF, we have this dialogue, we have the same concerns about how to help the most vulnerable children in Equatorial Guinea. So getting to know each other, it was a way, we found a way to say, okay, we can do this. The priority of the country at that time in 2005, UNICEF was responsible, fully responsible for support and financing pre-primary education. Then, after 2 years, with this support, with Arab construction and also in other companies, the government took the program by itself after having the capacity of the people, after having the people training. They took the program on their own to finance the pre-primary education, which is a very good, it's a very good case, to present. The good thing is that we need to replicate this experience of Arab construction. We really need to work on a framework, what we call the corporate social responsibility framework, where you can have companies come into the countries and do this agreement so they can support the social development of the country. And another way is to actually have agreement between the states, between the state of Egypt and Equatorial Guinea should be at the most, But at least, we need to have, different actors getting involved for the financial and the technical support. Capacity building is fundamental. Why? Because we need to have an organized, a professional, competent human resource. We train resources, we strengthen institutions by means of the regulations, the procedures, the law, whatever means is necessary. And finally, policy is always good. Why do we need three things? It happens in many countries in Africa that there is a high rotation of the staff, which means that you do train the personnel, but the next year, this personnel is moved to another part of the country, or maybe even outside the country. So what we need is that, okay, we train the staff, we develop the best practices, the innovations, we take these best practices and we institutionalize these practices into the teacher training programs, for instance. Okay? So we have the experience already into the system. And finally, moving from this having an institution to a policy level, which means that after some time, you can come and say, okay, we have an inclusive education policy. So we can contribute with this experience, to make this policy of inclusiveness in that way. We have this policy for teacher training, and after these good practices, we can have a policy on that. So you can move, in that way you can keep the result of the effort, because in my experience, sometimes you do have really well-trained personnel and you do have good practices, but it never comes, to policies. It never comes to reform, and we need to have that, So it's good to remain them and to have them fully developed afterwards. So it's three things: it's human resources, the organizations, and then policies. Communication and advocacy. This is very important. The messages that we pass through the media is highly important to have that, to promote and to engage people in these efforts. And UNICEF and other organizations, they have developed actually quite a lot by making videos on how this goal have been achieved. The other important thing is to monitor the progress. And you have, on a yearly basis, you have publication